Hello. Today I am going to be making a video playing two tables of 2-cent, 4-cent pot limit Omaha on Global Poker. And I'm going to be focusing on how to play at a site without a HUD, how to get reads on your opponents, as well as, of course, going into a lot of the common decisions that we face in pot limit Omaha. So on table one, this player Offwig, and you can see I've got a note on him that says he open limped a worthless hand under the gun, and I've given him a green label, which is whale for very loose player. So he posted anyway, under the situation here, so I flop a wrap, and obviously I can check or I can bet. And I am just going to check back. Very strong hand, but there is some value in helping somebody to catch a lower straight. So if they have 10-9 without really anything to go with it, they'll just fold if I bet the flop. But if a queen comes, then they'll probably pay me off for two straights. In general, you want to semi-bluff more when you're out of position, and you don't want to semi-bluff too much in four-way pots. And say on the river, there's not much point in betting. We have showdown value, and our opponents are loose. So you do want to, the way that you adapt to your opponents without a HUD, if, for example, you're playing at Global Poker, which doesn't have any HUDs, is to observe at showdown what sort of hands they're playing and how they played them throughout the hand. So the best thing for Global Poker is actually not to use the card replayer, which opens in another window and isn't that easy to quickly get the information you're looking for. But it's actually to just sort of manually, you go and you see, I'm not going to bother with this guy because he's now left the table. So priority is to look at how this guy played 10-10-8-7 with a suit. And you can see you raised it blind on blind, and then flopped top set, and bet called on the boat. And actually, this player raised him on the flop with just a gut shot. So certainly would be worth taking a note on him that he made that play, very unusual play, very bad play, especially when it's all in for less than a pot size bet. A board that a lot of hands could call you. There's a flush draw, and probably his opponent's not going to bet the 10-9-8 flop with air, even heads up. So table one, I flop top two on a fairly dynamic board. There's a flush draw, but only 3 ranks complete a straight, king, queen, or 10. Gonna start betting here, 4-way. It's a limped-in pot, so I really wouldn't be happy if I got raised on the flop. Now, on the turn, this is an incredibly dynamic board. There's 2 flush draws, and 2, 3, 5, 7, 8, king, queen, or 10. Like, only the 9 doesn't complete a straight. So most likely, a lot of these are safe. My opponent pots it. Still possible he's got a made hand that beats me. I'll fold if he bets the river, for sure. The heart is one of his most likely hands to hit, especially now that I've sort of played my hand a little deceptively by check calling on the turn. So here on table 1, I've got a very weak hand, but I'm offered such good odds by the pot that I do call. You can complete very liberally in that situation, especially when you've got loose limpers. So I don't have too much of a read on Golfer Guy just yet, but he is open limping first hand in the four-handed game, and he's playing less than 50 big blinds. Also, I think I've seen him open limp before earlier in this session. So it looks like he might be a more recreational player, looser player. So if your opponents are likely to be playing a lot of weak hands, then your standards for playing can decrease a little bit to account for the fact that they are liable to be in there on weak hands. He had an okay hand, Queen 998, playable in the cutoff, which is essentially what under the gun in a four-handed game is. So a good way to get reads on your opponents, as I was saying, without a HUD, is to just look at the hands that show down. So this player, Einen 28, had 8-7-6-3 with 3 hearts. And he was in the small blind. So completed the small blind after this player open limped to your modus. Open limped with 10-9-6-5 rainbow. So maybe kind of looser play. And then Einen check called the flop, which was a paired board with just a weak flush draw. So that's not really a good play. I mean, even if the board wasn't, he didn't even have a flush draw. It was 10-5-5 rainbow. So he called the flop with just backdoors. So that's a very loose call, and certainly worth taking some notes here. Peel flop backdoors. You can see also they're open limping. In general, I don't like to raise out of the big blind, but with such magnum aces, I do think we have a profitable raise here, and nice connectivity, even if it's on the low end. Decent chance of flopping something pretty strong. So go ahead and raise out of the big blind, and take a look at this guy limped. 9-6-5 rainbow. It's pretty dubious play. So Jack 3 flop, and just from a probability standpoint, it's like 50-50 that somebody's got a jack or not. So everybody's checking. Seems a little more likely now that aces might be the best hand. You wouldn't think somebody would check a jack, but they might have anyway. I guess one thing is, if nobody has the jack, I can still win the hand even though I check. This guy bets half pot. Another player calls. Can fold too. Got some outs if somebody has a jack. Get a 3 or 4 might give me better hands. Of course, aces and jacks could be the best hand on the turn still, but I guess not. Quads, he had quads. I guess this guy made a straight. It doesn't show the mucked hands, which is kind of too bad. You get more information that way if you can see what people are mucking. So the reason I called the turn was I didn't think that the dice player would check a jack on the flop. Like, usually you don't want to just give 3 cards with a strong but vulnerable hand like 3 of a kind. So I thought maybe on the turn he was semi-bluffing, but it turned out he had quads, so luckily the ace didn't come. That would have been kind of unfortunate. Table 1, I raise ace, king, queen, 4, and I flop ace, queen, which is, it's sort of not strong enough to value bet. Like, I'm mostly going to just get action from better hands. There's some value in protecting my hand. And on the turn, when he checks again, it's sort of less likely that he has a jack. Table 2, I opened pretty weak hand on the button. And I flop top and bottom. It's going to be the best hand most of the time. Maybe I could check back. I mean, I can't really stand a check raise. I'm certainly not going to stack off in a 15 or actually in a 12 or 13 SPR situation. My hand gets a lot stronger on the turn. I turn 2 pair, so basically losing only to a straight. He could have maybe some massive draw that's competitive. And I think I have to bet. Nice thing is I'm in position, so I can take a free showdown in the likely event that I get an unfavorable river. This is actually a pretty good river. And potentially I could value bet here. I think I'm just going to check, although yeah, I'm just going to check. I mean, probably have the best hand. There are a lot of hands that could pay me off. That's not one of them. Kind of dubious play on my opponent's part, calling two streets there with a fairly weak draw, non-nut draw. He had a gut shot as well, but you really don't want to chase like weak flush draws in PLO. See this player also open limped. Table 1, just going to flat here on the button with a pretty decent connected hand, high card hand, and I flopped up 2 in a gutty. It's kind of a delicate situation. I think I'm going to call on the flop. See what Bird Lady does. I felt pretty good about my hand. It's pretty worthless now. I'm going to fold. Pick up jacks, table 1. I think it's a good spot to over limp. Sort of a long shot hand. You're trying to make 3 jacks basically. And table 2, gonna defend, blind on blind. Flop top pair. And I guess I'll peel one time, getting 3-1. See what happens on the turn. My opponent checks. And extremely dry lockdown board. I'll check it as well and fold the river. Potentially could just fold the flop too. Overall, these games look pretty good. The action at PLL 4 and PLL 10 on Global Poker is pretty decent overall. A lot of people posting when they join the game, a lot of open limping, and guys that play a lot of pots. Convenient too for US players being able to buy in through PayPal, cash out through PayPal. I just started playing here yesterday, so see how it goes. Give it a try, check it out. The software is okay. I was playing up to 6 tables reasonably well, although at 6 tables you couldn't take notes on people. That didn't work. Any more than 6 doesn't work too well. It gets to, you can't see what's going on. The tables get too small. 6 legs a bit as well. So table 2, pick up really strong kings, and it's just a single blind. I'm going to check back on the flop. I think betting might be pretty reasonable as well. But my hand's just a little too weak to value bet. And it's a really dynamic board, so I'm going to hate most turns anyway. I think it's alright to just check back. You don't have to bet every situation. You don't have to try to win every pot. A lot of your profit in loose games comes from value betting strong hands and just avoiding trouble situations, holding weak hands, weak situations. Your opponent's main mistake is that they play too passively and they call too much. So you want to avoid any tactics that make that a good decision. You don't want to make their strategy a profitable one. So if your opponent calls too much, you don't want to bluff them very frequently. So if we see in this last hand, this player, Einan28, had ace-king 4-3, and he defends his small blind with a very weak hand, which is, it's basically confirmation that he's a whale, that you don't want to call with very weak hands in the small blind. You're out of position. You're not getting that much of a price. So, and then on the turn he calls a pot size bet with top pair top kicker on a connected board, which turned out to be the right decision versus his opponent's actual hand, but further verifies this read that he makes really loose calls and generally just does not fold. So very loose player. What's the call? Over on table 1, I'm not going to complete this hand, although it may in fact be profitable to do so. I'm not sure. My hand's just so weak that I would have smashed the flop. So you always got to complete the small blind, evidently. and make a boat on the turn. Classic Omaha. There's a modest amount of PLO 4 and PLO 10 action. So right now there are 3 tables. It's 10:20 a.m. Eastern Standard Time and 1 game PLO 10, 2 games of PLO 20, 3 games of PLO 50, and 4 games of PLO 100. Okay, got some hands here. Just gonna call on table 1. I don't really like this type of hand very much. Ace King double suited without any connectivity. I think it is probably profitable on the button after 2 loose limpers. It's an okay hand, but I'd rather just call, see a flop. Table 2. Gonna call again. Pretty decent hand, even though I just have 1 low suit, but just having 4 middle connected cards is a pretty strong attribute for a hand, and pretty competitive in multi-way situations. Not an amazing hand, but pretty decent overall. And definitely would have taken a note on that play that this player blocked the flop multi-way. So it was 4-way on the flop, and he tries to bluff through players. He's just got air, just running straight draw. That's his only. So very dubious play there, and I wonder if it's possible. Take a note. A lot of poker clients, you can take a note in the hand replayer tool. So, I mean, just in case you run across this guy again, that's very valuable information. Okay, well, I don't know if that's working, but it's very valuable. No, I guess it's kind of just flop raiser, right? Yeah, I guess you can. It's gonna be this guy. Yes. Yeah, so that's very valuable information. If your opponent's going to make a pure bluff in a 4-way pot, because I mean you shouldn't be expecting that, right? It's very uncommon, with good reason. It's a terrible play, especially in these loose games against loose players. And as you see, he this guy called him down, and Strong did. And actually, we can look at it here, and you see that this player in that hand, this player had ace 9 deuce 6, and the flop was ace 9 2 with a flush draw, and he just called, which, okay, yes, it worked out very well against his hand, but in general, on these on these dynamic boards that have flush draws and straight draws, you're going to want to take a more aggressive line with top 2, because what happens if the draw completes on the turn? Now it's going to be more difficult to get action against worse made hands, and if he made the draw, then you want to fold, right? So And so as nice as it is to play against loose players, it's even better to play against loose and passive players. So table 1, I flop top pair and double gut shot. So I can make the nuts with a 7 or a 2. Pretty good situation. And for sure I can bet the flop as well. Because I'm in very good shape against almost any hand. And then once the board pairs on the turn, I don't even want to continue, even against the tiny sizing. The min bet sizing. So overall, the software is not bad. It's cool. You can play in the browser too. So your notes are going to transfer with you if you switch devices, or if you have to format your computer or do a factory reset. I don't know if people format anymore, if that's a thing, but if you do a factory reset or you get a new computer or whatever, you should still have all your notes. And so note taking is going to be the way that you develop reads and sort of get a long-term edge on your opponent. So Knight 28, King 8, Deuce 3, 8 high spades, and pretty dry board. That 6 cents. So he called the raise with a very weak hand, and then calling down, calls the flop with just top pair after this guy bets multi-way, and then he turns 2 pair, so he's calling again, and the guy betting the flop didn't have that much. The other guy had 3-10, so he's drawing almost dead. This player's open limping here. Something to keep an eye on. Might be another loose player. Big blind raises, and I'm just going to fold. I think it's not a great hand with the dangler, and if my opponent has what he's representing, to raise out of the big blind like a pretty strong hand, I could be in bad shape. So given that my hand does have a dangler, and usually people have pretty decent hands to raise out of the big blind, I'm just going to fold. Certainly be interesting to see what these players have. So he flops the low straight. This guy raises on the flop. He's just got air and backdoors. So pretty ludicrous play. Especially, I mean, I think he just sat down at the table, so you might not know how this guy plays, but he's very loose and passive, right? He calls down with anything, but only bets with strong hands. So in this case, he had flopped a straight, and he bet it, which is, I guess, to be expected. But a 6, 7, 8 flop with, like, I don't really know what he was trying to do there. It's not a very good play. Just ace high. And that's the great thing about playing at these $4 tables, you know, is a lot of the times the guys just thinking, fuck it, it's only $4, you know, I'll go all in. So Bird Lady here, open limped, under the gun with 2, 2, 5, 10. Yeah. 2, 2, 5, 10 under the gun. So definitely worth noting. If your opponent's, nice wrap here, table 2, very premium and everything to the nut. So I do turn the nuts. And got a fast play it. Pots into me. Table 1, 8's full of kings. Yeah, value bet. And I'll probably fold to a raise. And all in on the turn here. So I don't think it even shows the cards. I'll hopefully get a nice river brick. Yep. Chop it up anyway. This guy me crushed. But luckily, Einen was in there with open-ended. Kind of dubious play there. Ace King Jack 9. Yeah, just open-ended, Queen or 7. So that was sweet. Anyway, managed to dodge the diamond redraw. I think I played that hand all right. I mean, pretty good draw on the flop, and then maybe I'm not ramp, and then on the turn I don't have a choice but raise the nuts. Probably raise. Opponent flop, top 2 open-ended. Another very strong hand on the flop. I guess that hand sort of illustrates this guy limped the button with 3 9s and a 5. Nice. That's a very weak hand. You're not supposed to call when you have 3 of a kind in your hand. So it's good to take that note, and then what you can do is, once you've got notes on all these players, you can use that information when you're selecting tables and get the most profitable tables. So I will be folding with 3 2s in my hand. I'm gonna I've been recording 32 minutes already. I'm gonna stop this video here. I'm gonna start another one.